Everyone tells a lie. Almost every single one of us has lied to their friends or family at one point or another. And we also like to justify these lies just to make ourselves feel good or better. But most lies fall under a specific category. Sometimes we lie out of shame or embarrassment, maybe fear, uncertainties, maybe to protect someone's feelings. Sometimes people lie out of guilt or anger. And usually these lies are about the small things, the little tiny things, how they're doing, what they spend their money on, or who they're dating, are they even dating? When will they settle down? What job do they want to do? Are they even looking? What are their future goals and aspirations? Now, if you ignore how very, very specific these seem, they're not that bad, right? I mean, it could be worse. But what do you consider a big lie? And how do you make that distinction? Is it a matter of principles, values, beliefs, financial, or emotional? Does spending over $200,000 on someone and lying about it count as a big lie? Grant Amato lied about spending over $200,000 on a Bulgarian Camgirl he had never met in person. And when his family confronted him about it, well, he thought of a permanent solution. Not for himself, but for his family. And no, he wasn't going to apologize or anything like that. Of course not. That'd be too easy. He just had to, I guess kill them. Every single one of them. Hi Digestives, welcome to Crimes Digested. This is a place where we try, emphasis on try, to digest senseless crimes. If you are new here, welcome. And if this is not your first time seeing this face, I want to say a quick thank you for taking time out of your busy days to join me. Now, on Crime Digested, we attempt to delve into some of the most perplexing true crimes happening around us every single day. And sometimes these are very sad, like stories, unbelievable even. Some unexpectedly funny in the most tragic of ways. But most of all, these stories are a constant reminder of the cruelty and dark nature of humanity. Today's story not only has all of these aforementioned elements, but will have you befuddled at the messiness of it, okay? So join me as we explore a case that will keep you up all night. Seriously, this story will make you want to throw your phone across the room, then pick it up and Google everything if it didn't break. Specifically, how to sleep with one eye open, just in case one of your relatives or family members get a funny idea. Very quick disclaimer, and then we will get into today's story. I promise, everything in this video is alleged. Sometimes my own personal opinion when asked for. Most of the information is what you can also find online. So I do encourage you to form your own opinion, and if you have any additional information, or if you notice something is missing, wrong, misleading in this video, please leave it down in the comment section below so we can all learn from one another, okay? But as always, let's try to be respectful to one another in the comment section. This is long-winded, but yeah, let's be nice to each other so everyone can feel safe to share whatever they want, their thoughts, opinions, feelings, what they ate, when they brushed their teeth, But if that's it, let's get in it. Where do I even begin? You're gonna need to tightly buckle in for this wild ride, okay? Because today's case is all about the big O. No, not that big O. I'm talking about obsession. What were you thinking, you nasty? Get your head out the gutter. This story is all about a fantasy that spiraled into financial ruin, deception, and a triple murder so cold and calculated. It even shocked some of the most seasoned investigators. This is the story of Grant Amato, a man who became addicted to a camgirl named Sylvie to the point of obsession, wiped out his whole career, his credibility, and ultimately his entire family just to indulge in his fantasy. This is an example of what happens when someone leads with their lust instead of their brain, okay? And a fantasy became all too real. So my question for you is this. If your partner doesn't get rid of their entire family just for you, is it even real love? Do they really care for you? For real? You should just dump them right now. Just go call them and say we're done, okay? But as always, we're going to do a quick overview of the involved parties, starting with our man, Grant. In 1989, he took his first breath of life. Born and raised in Florida, had a relatively normal childhood, at least from what is known about him publicly anyways. His parents, Chad and Margaret, were devout, hardworking, middle-class citizens, which used to mean something. But nowadays, it feels like there's only rich and then poor. There's no in between, okay? As the middle child between Jason, his older half brother, and younger brother Cody, Grant wasn't very remarkable. At least that's what most people say about him. In fact, he seems like the polar opposite of his younger brother. While Cody went on to become a very successful nurse anesthetist, popular, reliable, ambitious, everything you'd want to see in a man. Grant floundered. He too chose the medical route and applied to a nursing school, but he was introverted, a bit awkward, just kind of a nerdy guy who had an obsession with video games, animes, cosplay. He never had a girlfriend, and it didn't look like he was going to have one anytime soon either. The guy was a perfect description of what most people would call an incel, which probably explains why when Grant discovered a little website called My Free Cams, well, he dove headfirst into it like it was his first love, okay? And that's when he met Sylvie, the love of his life. Sylvie, whose real name is still an unconfirmed mystery, was a cam model from Bulgaria, okay? She was this blonde and beautiful girl full of life, living in a very lavish apartment Grant could only dream of. Now, I'm sure you can already guess where this is going. Yes, he started chatting it up with Sylvie on a daily basis. I mean, he wasn't just watching. It was very interactive, intimate even. Sylvie would greet him by name, laugh at his little jokes, rub his little ego a bit every now and then. He would buy her gifts, tokens. Sometimes he would even send her money, moolah, okay? The more he gave, the more she smiled. And the more she smiles, the higher his chances of talking to this beautiful girl. Someone he probably wouldn't have ever approached in real life. And let's be real. If not for the money, it's very unlikely that she would have given him the time of the day. And that's not me trying to throw shade, okay? I'm being realistic here, okay? To Sylvie, he was just client number 4,880 something. Just another nameless person paying for her next rent. But in Grant's mind, this could only be love. But now you're wondering, where is he getting all of this money? Is he not a struggling student? And you'd be right. That is exactly why Grant began to steal money from his unsuspecting family. He drained $60,000 from the youngest, Cody's bank account, which, wow, just wow. To have $60,000 of liquid cash just sitting around is crazy to me, but maybe that's normal. Let me know in the comments if I'm just too broke and poor or is he just rich, okay? Grant doesn't stop at that either though. He would steal his dad's credit card and max them out. Like max. He'd fake being employed while racking up over $200,000 in debt. One of those fake employments was a time when he pretended to have a job working at a hospital that he had been previously fired from. And you know why? For stealing propofol and attempting to perform unnecessary procedures. By late 2018, his life was in the shambles. Everything was falling apart. And his family, well, they found out about his little spending habits. So they decided to stage an intervention, forcing him into rehab as any normal loving family would. Not once did they give up on him. He gets out of rehab soon after, and they even allow him to move in with them in the family home. But with one tiny little condition attached to that. No Sylvie, No more Camgirl tokens, no unnecessary spending, no pretending she was his girlfriend, because she is not. His family was very explicit. They told him that if he contacted her ever again, he'd have to leave the house, move out. But he did it anyways. Here's the thing, okay, about addiction. It doesn't really listen to reason, and Brent just couldn't stop. If he can't see her at the house, he was just gonna go somewhere else where his family isn't, and won't stop him. So he started sneaking out to the library to use the library Wi-Fi. He invested into burner phones, proxy sites. He would email Sylvie constantly under multiple aliases. This was turning into a star-crossed romance, a Romeo and Juliet, even though his Juliet couldn't even care less about him. No offense. But on January 24th, 2019, his parents finally had it. Enough was enough, and they tell him, leave the house, get your life together, or we are officially done. And that was the final straw. If they were done with him, if they wanted to get in the way of his relationship with Sylvie, then he too was done with them. On that very same day, on the 24th, his parents were both home and his brother Cody left for work. Now, sometimes later during the day, he got his father, Chad, alone in one of the rooms, shoots him execution style right in the back of the head. He walks over to the stairs, up, and kills Margaret, the mother. Then he waits. It's now evening time, and Cody came home from work, tired. He had no idea that he was walking into his own execution, because Grant ambushed him in the garage and he shot him as well. But now the real work began. Grant places the gun next to Cody's body, attempting to make it look like a murder-suicide. He cleans himself up and walks off like nothing happened. The scene was now officially set. He will check into a nearby hotel, grab some food for dinner. He will eat, and right after getting very comfortable, he logs into Sylvie's camera stream. No, you're not hearing things. Just hours after murdering his family, Grant was online tipping his favorite Camgirl, okay? All is right in his little world again. The next day, though, on the 25th, Cody, the ever so dedicated and hardworking man that he was, failed to show up to work. And, well, his coworkers immediately got concerned and decided to call the police to report him not being at work. That is honestly the kind of coworkers that everyone needs in their life, though. The police officers go to the Amato home for a very quick wellness check. Maybe to tell Cody to contact his work and let them know he was okay, to stop worrying people for no reason. But what they found on their arrival was a bloodbath. 3 dead bodies, a gun next to Cody's, but something was off. The math just wasn't mathing at all. Cody had no gunshot residue on his hands, and the angles of the shots didn't match a self-exit wound. And there was someone missing. Gret. He was nowhere to be found. Investigators finally were able to track him down at a hotel in Orange County, and they bring him in for questioning. And at this point, honestly, I don't necessarily think they believe him to have been a suspect. At least not yet. Because Grant was chillingly calm. Not shocked, not surprised that the police dragged him to the police station. No signs of any confusion or concerns. He just started with one tune and just kept repeating it. Just repeating himself like a broken record, okay? He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong at all. When the detective asked about the gun, he said he didn't know anything. Like, he didn't know what happened. He knew nothing at all. But when asked about Sylvie, he admitted that he'd spent a lot of money on her, but, well, that's what you do when you're in love, right? And he and Sylvie, well, I mean, they were in love. He even suggested that maybe his brother had killed their parents out of jealousy. Now, jealousy of who? Of what? None of it added up. His online activities, on the other hand, interesting to say the least. Search histories, email accounts, and VPN, everything led to one conclusion. They all pointed to premeditation. Now, fast forward to August of 2019, Grant was charged with 3 counts of first degree murder, and prosecution presented to the jury all of his misdeeds. The money theft, the stage self exit, his love affair with a woman who he has never met. Authorities even contacted Sylvie to come in as a witness, but she declined. And frankly, I don't blame her. Just knowing someone likes you is an uneasy feeling, especially when the feelings aren't mutual. And now to find out that they ended the lives of their entire family, the people who actually love them over a fantasy with you, I mean, that has to be a very odd feeling. Of course, these things were unknowingly encouraged by her streams, but when the lines between fantasy and reality become so blurred, I don't even know who to blame in this situation, okay? The person profiting off of the obsession, or the person who purposefully went out in search of such fantasy. I want to know your thoughts on this down below. Grant's defense tried to argue, though, that he had a psychotic break, that his fantasy world just became too real. But the jury wasn't buying it. And in July 2019, just 1 month after the trial began, Grant Amato was found guilty on all accounts. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he is currently serving time at a Florida state prison with no visitors, no camgirls, and no way to escape his current reality. Many people were as fascinated as they were horrified by this story. The idea that someone could get so consumed by a parasocial love that they'd kill their whole family. I mean, the amount of obsession required to put someone in such a trance, it was mind-boggling to say the least. And then there were the Reddit threads, the home of the savages. They tore him apart. Some TikTok armchair psychologists broke down every piece of the interrogation footage, okay? Everyone was coming up with theories and conspiracies. Even the cam model community, they were terrified, and Sylvie's silence spoke volume. Some report claimed that she feared retaliation or global backlash. Personally, I don't doubt that, but others came to her defense. A lot of people said that she was just another worker, unaware that one of her top tippers had murdered his whole entire bloodline over a fantasy. Some pointed out the fact that she may have also been traumatized by the knowledge of the influence that she may have or she had over someone she had never even met once in person. But as fascinating as the psychology behind the murder or Sylvie's silence may be, let's not forget the real victims. Chad Amato was a kind and patient man, a man who cared deeply for his family. Margaret was nurturing, endlessly forgiving person who was more than likely the one fighting for Grant. She was probably the one making sure that the rest of the family didn't give up on him, that their relationships didn't suffer because of his life choices. Then there was Cody, a bright star in the making, respected at work, engaged to a very beautiful young woman, a man with plans for the future, an envisioned future in which he would grow old and gray with his own loving family. They were the people who bent over backward to help Grant. They gave him second chance, third and fourth chances. They tried to help him lead a better life, pay for his rehab, welcome him home, and he repaid them each with a bullet. This story is a glimpse into obsession culture, the way that parasocial relationships can warp a person's reality, the very thin, fragile line between love and illusion, and the cost that comes when a transactional relationships become an obsession. Okay? Grant Amato didn't kill his family because he hated them or anything like that. He didn't do it out of rage either. He simply killed out of a desperation, a feeling that everyone is capable of experiencing. He did it to preserve a fantasy, and now he has lost everything real. And that concludes today's video. I would love to know what your thoughts were on Grant's actions. What about Sylvie? Do you think that she's culpable in the family's death? I mean, the girl was just trying to make money. So how much can we really say that she's responsible for in this? It's such a weird situation because she can't control him at all or his actions, but she has such a control over his every single action in a very primal way. Isn't that wild? Anyways, I want to know what your thoughts are on this story. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if there's a case that you are interested in, leave it down below. Maybe we can take a look into it together, you know? But do try to stay smart, stay curious, protect your peace, okay? Guard your wallet, and maybe log off once in a while, unless of course you're watching my videos, then you know, in which case you can finish it first, okay? I'm just kidding. On a serious note though, if nothing else, remember this one thing: obsession is not love, and fantasies are not reality. I wish you a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.